One. You're on.
Wholeness family. Eitai, you done laid such a perfect foundation, and I mean you put it right where everybody going to what start in the evolution and the understanding of what you call the true organic, you understand, union.
Yes.
This is very, very, and what I want to do, I want to start out giving some instructions. Those that are taking notes, I want you to write down a couple of words and write them on the words that I'm going to give them to you. First words we want to deal with, because I want us to understand that I know what we're looking for in terms of some answers to solve a relationship in the physical sense and a simulated reality, but that ain't where I'm going. That's not where I'm going. But it would do just that, even in the simulated reality, to give you some insight of why things haven't worked within the simulated reality.
Yes.
Now you have to understand the necessity of sending out of that.
Right.
But take these notes down. Write down the word spiritual, and then slash it with the word energetic. I know most of you already know where I'm going.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely, Nasik.
Yes.
And after that word, write down, you can slash it again with the word wholeness. And then slash it again with the word holistic.
Come on now, see.
Now, what I want to say here now, see, many times you hear this word spiritual.
Right.
And you have to understand about language, as he started out talking about this language. And this language is so critical to understanding. And as one of the things that I have witnessed, and this has been the great inspiration for me in my study here at Jerusalem, is that I've been able to see how Abba Ben Me was elevating his teaching, using the same terms, but at the same time, the language was shifting. And the language was shifting. And manner and how he expressed the concept or the idea. I recognize that. And that has been a great inspiration to me. So I'm kind of like sharing this. You see how spiritual, this was a term that and you really hear the word spiritual, you don't really get no holistic idea from that.
That's correct.
No.
It really separates you from what you call your physical element.
Yes.
It don't give you no connection to anything like that, but except something that's outside of you.
Yes.
Hear me now. But energetic, energy is essential and it's every place at the same time.
Right.
Yes.
And so now you can see how the word energetic and the word wholeness is connected together. But if you talk spiritual, you don't see the connection. That's really, if you hear what I'm saying.
Yes.
And you can see how it is holistic. Okay? Now here's another term. Write this word down, mental. And when you hear the word mental, automatically you goes for the mind.
Right.
This is what was created in simulated reality.
Right.
Now, but really when they say mental or mind, it was really talking about what? Consciousness.
Yes.
Because it's not the mind that causes life, because when you think of a mind, you think of something physical. You point to your head, your brain. That don't create no life. Consciousness is the force that's responsible for that, and life and consciousness is one and the same.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so then we slash that with the word consciousness. So with mental, you know, you think of the mind. We're going to slash that from being the mind to consciousness. And then as we move from consciousness, now we're going to move to the word emotional.
Mm-hmm.
It's emotional. And you're going to slash that with the word feelings. Okay? Now, very key point here. Emotional slash feelings is caused by the word, and write this word down, extraneous conduct. Extraneous conduct. Now, extraneous meaning, you know, external or coming from the outside. Now, but you got to understand that feelings don't just come from the external or from the outside.
That's
In the
right.
simulated post-mind matrix or the devolution, it comes from what? The outside.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in the holistic idea, it comes from the what?
Inside.
Intrinsic.
Mm-hmm.
Intrinsic. Now, the external or the extraneous, it's not essential. But I guarantee you the intrinsic is essential.
Yes.
That's correct.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So now, so we slash that external, you understand? Then we said intrinsic, okay? And then we go to the last one, which is physical. So we write down the word physical and we slash that with what you would call the matter or the body. Okay? And then you what? Slash that with the word connect. How do the body, the matter, connect with the quote unquote, the mental, the spiritual, the energetic, because we got to see that the physical body or matter, it always connects to something.
Yes.
It connects to something. It responds to something. So it responds and it is tied to both the external and the intrinsic.
Mm-hmm.
That's where our problem lies.
Yes.
We have not known that its physical body is connected to and responds to, this matter responds to both the external and the internal or the intrinsic. So when you hear the word extraneous, regulate, extraneous, this term extraneous, and they say conduct regulated by extraneous control. Now you can understand it's regulated by both internal and external.
Mm-hmm.
It's intrinsic and it's extrinsic.
Mm-hmm.
Extrinsic, right. So when you begin to understand, how language, has affected us, we'll better see how the concept that was written in Genesis 2:24, a union of two being one. That was always what we were trying to understand.
Yeah.
We have not understood how to make two become one.
Absolutely.
So Eitai laid out a perfect introduction, and I did part of my class, but we already knew, and we ain't talked about this at all. I mean, we haven't talked about this at all. But I can say it came the same time. Basically, it came to me, it came to him. I already know that. So
Mm-hmm.
we wanted to open with that, and we're going to continue on with this as an introduction. Now we're going to go to the scriptures, and we're going to see the progression here of how the scriptures reveal things, and we're going to see something about the writings of the scriptures. We're going to start with the book of Ecclesiastes. And this is how we'll know, we'll confirm what we hear you now, that it has not been coming from, the intrinsic nature of us. It's been the extraneous nature, the external, knowledge that been coming, as opposed to the internal knowledge,
Right.
that has been what you will call fashioning, laying out, creating, you know what I'm saying, the perceptions, the objectives, and the conclusions that we have wrought unto ourselves. We're going to start with Ecclesiastic, first chapter, and we're going to read the first 4 verses. And it reads, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. We already know Jerusalem means inheritance of perfection, wholeness.
Wholeness.
You talk about inheriting something other than wholeness, then you done missed what your inheritance is.
That's correct.
It says, vanity of vanities, saith the preacher. Vanity of vanity. All is vanity. Everything we've been doing has been a vanity.
Right.
Yes.
And that's why, because it's been extrinsic. It's been, an extraneous relationship that we've been trying to have with another mate.
That's right.
Whether it be brother, sister, mother, father, children, wife, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see why we fail in so many areas in relationships.
That's right.
Because it's all been a vanity from the simulated false matrix. You understand reality.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Conduct that was regulated by extraneous control. Now the scripture refers to that as FORM, form. Okay? Given form to. So you can follow and understand better what really has been occurring within the scriptures. This was called form. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, continuing on to verse 4, it says, one generation passes away and another generation is coming, but the earth abides forever. Now, when I read that, maybe, I think it was when Abba Ben Ami first came forth with the whole. I knew then when he said the whole and this scripture came to mind, it began to make me understand why this physical body could not stand forever, but at the same time, why would the earth be? And I'm from the earth, supposedly.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
I never could understand how could the earth abide forever.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
I couldn't abide forever, but I'm supposed to be
I had that same revelation.
Okay,
Yes.
me too.
Mm-hmm.
So we're beginning to understand that Eitai said all things are given unto it. And we're going to move from Ecclesiastic to first chapter to the 12th chapter. All of this is laying the foundation so that we are really what we're doing and dealing with. We ain't in no hurry to deal with. You got to get this.
Right.
You
Right.
got to get
Okay, Nasik.
12th chapter, Ecclesiastic, 9th verse. And this was always one of my favorite, if you talk about scriptures, and of course I didn't understand a lot of things, but this has always been my favorite scripture here. Favorite scripture. And I'm going to tell you when I get to the particular point. Verse 9. And moreover, because the preacher was wise, he still taught the people knowledge. Yea, he gave good heed and sought out and set in order many proverbs. Well, I don't know if you're looking at him as a real historical figure, where he didn't do a lot of good heed according to what's written here.
Mm-hmm.
He stayed in trouble, if you're looking at it from a historical point of view, because as you said, the many wives that he had, and so you can't look at this as a historical person and say, well, he was the wisest man, because he was on and off. He couldn't have been the wisest man like that. You follow me?
Right. Right.
Continuing on. Verse 10. The preacher sought to find out acceptable words. Acceptable words, and that which was written was upright, even words of truth.
Yes.
Verse 11. The words of the wise are like golds. You know, a gold is like, you know, something that you, let's go to the cowboy, you know, and the cowboy had on his spurs on his,
Right.
on his boots, and he would nudge the horse in the side, you understand, the cause him, right? So you can understand what golds are, you know, to prick you, to cause you to what? Move, you know, move swiftly. You ain't moving correctly,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And as nails, now, but listen now, they like golds to cause you to move, but then they're like nails that what? Fasten you down so you can't move.
That's right.
What does that sound like? Don't that sound like duality? Don't that sound like
yes.
and what? Energizing at the same time?
Right.
Okay.
This is good.
Fastened by the masters. Now, you know who the masters are. Those are the ancestors.
That's right.
Yes.
Masters of assemblies, which are given from one shepherd. Now, this was always my favorite verse here. And I don't know why, but now I understand why. This is my favorite verse.
It's mine's now too, Nasik.
Uh,
It's mine now too.
And further, by these, my son, be admonished of making many books, there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. Now, I'm going to come back with this here, because when I was in the school of the prophet, Abba used to always tell us about studying many books. He wanted to keep us locked to the Bible.
Right.
But we're going to come back and, you know, and decode this particular
Right.
verse, because,
Okay.
you know, you tell me, if I had to stay stuck with the scriptures, I wouldn't know what I know today.
That's right.
Right.
So, you know, I know about this, but anyway, continuing on. Verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the matter, of the whole matter, Fear God and keep his commandment, for this is the whole duty of man. Now, again, we're going to come back with 12 and 13 and decode this, because we know in the scripture said the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom.
That's correct.
We have to reevaluate that and put that within his holistic, you understand, perspective. We won't do that today, but we'll continue on to our next reference, Jeremiah 10th chapter, starting with verse 1. Now, in the Bible that I'm reading from, it says, the true God and idolatry. Verse 1 read, hear ye the words which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. For the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. We start off in what? And Ecclesiastes talking about vanity and everything was vain, right?
That's right.
Okay.
As our progression within the scriptures, within the simulated reality, we saw and we can now understand that everything that we did and even thought that we could do to what? Change the condition we see here, it was a vanity, right?
Right.
It ain't produced nothing.
Okay.
It's a the custom, all the things. Now, I don't want us to get caught in the Christmas tree, and I know that's what you said, because that's what you was taught, that, you know, you go to the forest, you cut down the river. That was the custom. That was the what tradition. That was always, you understand, the cultural idea that we put this in. But we got to look at this differently now. You know, he said,
Nasik, now this does have esoteric meaning relative to the virgin and the immaculate conception. So it
yeah,
right in.
Right.
Go right ahead. Yeah, we'll decode this later. This is great.
Right.
Uh-huh.
For the customs of the people are vain, for one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. Verse 4. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers that it move not. Now, we just read in Ecclesiastes about the gold that was urging movement, and then we read about the nails that what fastened it down.
Right.
But all we're talking about here are words. Right. We're talking about words. That's all. We're talking about language, and we can see how this language has what fastened us down. That we was energized and we was ready to go out to war and do it and free. We done marched. We did all that. And what happened? Conditions was what? Still the same.
Right.
Still the same.
So we wanted to just sort of lay out there. We're going to close it out with the book of James. James, the 1st chapter.
We read to verse.
That was verse 5, I think.
1 through 5, Nasik, in Jeremiah.
No, we didn't get 5. We didn't get 5. Let's go back and read 5.
Okay.
Go back and read 5.
Right.
So they are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born,
yes,
because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. Now, of course, we all know, but we have been taught, we all understand this, because when you become holistic and you're in your divinity, ain't no good and evil, you know? Okay. And we know now that we got to be what? Awaken on what the world will call, the religion will call being born again. We got to become anew. We got to leave duality and come into, wholeness and unity and oneness. So we move there. And if we don't do that, then this is what happens in the book of James. If we don't, okay, we go to James 1st chapter. We're going to pick up verse 4. We'll pick up verse 4. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and in time, wanting nothing. So when we say about wholeness, causes you to what? Have no need for
nothing.
Verse 5. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given. Now, this word here, upbraideth not. Now, again, the scriptures, they're very interesting in how the aberrant man being used by the ancestors to, convey certain things a specific way. Like this word upbraideth not. And we know in the simulated reality, it's all about, someone finding fault, and criticizing, So it's in the dualistic, you're going to find fault and you're going to have criticism. You know, so we understand that. But he said, upbraid is not. So we, if we talk about lack of criticism and etc., then you would have to be talking about within what? An organic relationship, whereas divinity exists. Okay? Continue. Verse 6. But let them ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. He that is dualistic, he's like the wind, you know, moving here and there. No stability. For let not that man think he shall receive anything of the Lord. A double-minded person, a man, is unstable in all of his ways. So we see that duality creates vanity. That's the whole idea we want to lay out, so that we can see how this all relates to everything that we have wanted in life that have not been able to produce in life, and that is what we call peace, what we call peace, what we call unity, what we call oneness, what we call wholeness, you know, what we call eternity. All of us wanted that, but in the physical realm, was never going to happen because of the profundity of dualism.
Mm-hmm.
So that's introduction, and I wanted it to be, you know, extensive because this whole session that we're going to be doing here is quite extensive. And we're going to title the actual class, we will begin the class here, where it says, the title we're going to say, the solution for divine marriage that will prevent divorce/release. Solution for divine marriage that will prevent divorce release. Now, I have to testify here, I was the first one that when Abba Ben-Ami taught the class, he didn't call it divorce, he called it the release of the Lord. I sit in the class when he taught the class, and I was the first one that was given the tape to take to St. Croix for a couple there that was having major problems. My instruction was to take the class, let them listen to it, you know, and then discuss it with them, you know, any question they have, answer their question. Of course, I did that. That didn't halt anything. Both the brother and the sister broke up. The brother is no longer within the community, nor the sister. And this whole idea of divine marriage, you know, I want us to hear it because certainly we're not talking about a relationship or marriage between a man and a woman.
Yes. Yes.
It's an allegory, but we're going to lay this out so that you can really see what the divine marriage is. And once you understand it, it would actually prevent what you would call a separation or release from your union of divinity and wholeness.
Mm-hmm.
Never have them again. You know,
Yes.
So we start by saying we are addressing a holistic, universal concept that is currently being called marriage by many in such a friendship. Now, we use the word friendship purposely because everybody that starts a relationship, and the reason they say they break up is because it started off physical and not based upon a friendship.
Yes. Came
But that's
Yes.
incorrect. It ain't had nothing to do with no friendship.
Right.
It ain't had nothing to do with being physical.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we believe. Because it always ended, you know, because we didn't get to know one another. And we really believe that. We weren't going to never get to know one another in the simulated false mind matrix of reality.
Okay. Yes.
It will never happen.
Yes.
Has not happened and never will happen.
Never will happen. Nope.
So forget about that. That's all false, okay?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Within many Hebraic communities, it is called divine marriage / relationships. Now, we done had all kinds of settings, the brothers and the sisters up here that went to the homes, you know, priests. They done gathered information, and they were take it back, and they both examine it and determine what was the problem, so they could halt divine marriage. It ain't stopped up here right now. Don't no sister want to do with no brother, and brothers don't want to do nothing with sisters.
Yes.
Absolutely right now.
Yes. Yes.
That's an absolute.
Real talk.
Because of our misconception and profound deception about a relationship between a man and a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind what I said about intrinsic
Yes.
and extraneous. Two key words.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Intrinsic and extraneous.
Yes.
Rightly named, yet it is not approached nor applied from an organic universal concept of divinity in wholeness. So we got the right name, divine marriage, divine relationship.
Right.
We got the right name, but it's not approached nor applied from an organic universal concept of divinity and wholeness. It can't work.
Can work. I see.
It can't work. So we don't want to rush now. I know we got some sisters on. Sisters, if you please, if you got any questions, you got any comments at this point, can you please bring them forth and let us take our time and, you know, walk through this and get some clarity, because I want this to be clear as of this day, that we don't have no more problems, you know, trying to solve them based upon the traditional worldview that you and I was raised in. It's
Yes.
just
Okay.
Yes.
Nathan,
Okay.
are you following where I'm going now?
Okay.
All right. I want your sisters, any brothers, anybody, but I'm just really focusing on the sisters because I know the effect all of this has had upon the divine, you understand, feminine. Eitai, we talk about it all the time.
Yes, sir.
You know, so crystal clear the effect, you know. So, sisters, any questions, any comment? Well, I guess the greater question is everything clear up to this point? Okay. All right, continuing on then. Quote, the major problems of our time cannot be understood in isolation. Now, everybody that heard that, I know you know where we're going.
Yes.
The major problems of our time cannot be understood in isolation.
Mm-hmm.
They are systemic problems. Now, this is where the problem comes. Don't nobody believe it's systemic.
Right.
Nobody believe it's isolated.
Right.
Okay.
They are systemic problems, interconnected and interdependent.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always she didn't do this or he didn't do that. And all of that leads to what? In the end result, we just don't see eye to eye. And that ain't my mind. Your mind ain't my mind. And what? It ends up in what we call a divorce. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
Now we go back and we just what? You know, go back, look back. We can understand what Moses is talking about. You know,
Mm-hmm.
why he wrote a bill of divorce, because the same mode of thought exists, you know, so from time immemorial, and time immemorial meaning since we descended and, you know, into this dualistic realm of physicality. Ever since it has existed. Continuing on. The new paradigm now emerging can be described in various ways. Now, we're talking about the Old Testament and the New Testament. The old template pattern and, quote unquote, the new template and pattern. The new paradigm.
Yes.
We got to understand the significance of what, you know, what is happening in terms of this shift from the old paradigm to the new.
That's
Mhm.
We
correct.
have to understand. It says it can be called a holistic worldview. Not dualistic, but holistic.
Yes.
In the world as an integrated whole rather than a disassociated collection of parts. Now, you really have to stop and ask yourself now, as you are hearing this, because I know you're hearing it now, totally different from you heard it before. When
Mm-hmm.
you read it before. Because you can't imagine now the profundity of what occurred in terms of how we fell into this dualistic way, disassociated collection of parts and everything. How did that happen? And we could not see it and couldn't recognize it. That's, you know, beloved family, is the, you know, epitome of deception.
That's correct.
Is an individual that is truly made dead. It can also be called an holistic. Can also be called an holistic. I'm sorry. It can also it also can be called an holistic view. If the term, I'm saying holistic, I don't know why, ecological view, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
It can also be called an ecological view. If the term ecological is used in a much broader and deeper sense than it is commonly used. The broader and deeper sense of ecological is known as deep ecology.
Mm-hmm.
Deep ecology. Listen carefully. Shallow ecology would be the opposite of deep ecology, right? Now, we always say he got a what? A deep understanding of thus and thus. So-and-so got a real shallow understanding. We see the duality. Says
Yes.
shallow ecology is anthropocentric. It views human as above or outside of nature, as the source of all value, and ascribes only, quote, use value to nature. Anthropocentric. Now let's see what anthropocentric is. It says it views human above or outside of nature. Then it says deep ecology does not separate human from the natural environment, nor does it separate anything else from it. That's deep ecology. Shallow ecology separates things and makes, you understand, that which is external more valuable and essential than that which is what? Internal.
So Nasik,
Ultimately.
so deep ecology binds and bonds together. Shallow
Absolutely.
ecology divides and separates.
There we go. There we go.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ultimately, such deep ecological awareness is spiritual awareness or energetic awareness. Is what? When the concept of the human spirit is understood as the mode of consciousness. There we go. There we go. The mode of consciousness
Yes.
in which the individual feels connected to the cosmos. Now, cosmos and consciousness, when you feel connected to the whole of all things,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
it becomes clear that ecological awareness is spiritual or energetic in its deepest sense. And is then not surprising that the new vision of reality is in harmony with the vision of spiritual traditions or energetic traditions. So the traditions that we're talking about are not what Yeshua was referring to when he said, ye by your traditions has made wholeness and unity and oneness null and void of none effect. So he was referring to this what? Simulated false mind matrix of dualism
Yes.
that was
Mm-hmm.
causing problems and still are causing problems. And when we
Okay.
understand the tradition that, the tradition of wholeness is what we have to get back to.
Right.
Yes.
Get back to.
Okay.
So we halt at this point and we ask the question. Any questions? Any comments at this point?
Good, Nasik.
You got a question, Markel?
Nasik, I'm good.
Oh, okay. This is found. You can read this for yourself, study it for yourself. You're gonna get the notes, but it's in Abba Benami's book, Imitation of Lies, page 23. Now, but it's actually was taken. If you have the book, The Tao of Physics by Fritjof Capra. The Tao of Physics by Fritjof Capra, page 325 and 326. That's where that quote was taken from. Okay? Continuing on. When we look at the decline of the level of truth of the world's greatest religions, we notice that those that are the most yin, quote, end of quote, have remained relatively pure throughout the ages. Whereas those that are more yang, we see yin and yang, we see a division here, involved in worldly affairs, have degraded markedly until the militant extremist faction of the most aggressive religion has actually sunk below the critical level of integrity at 200. Okay? The more dualistic the creed, the greater its vulnerability to misinterpretation seems to be. So now let's stop. Go back and ask ourselves, how dualistic are we at this point?
Mm-hmm.
And if we asked ourselves, we would then see that we are vulnerable, very vulnerable to misinterpretations of everything.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Now, go back to
Okay.
our need, let there be darkness. In
Mm-hmm.
the chapter, he said that the ingrained definition, he said, well, automatically cause them to what? Misunderstand and automatically reject.
Mm-hmm.
This is Imitation of Life, chapter 1. He said, more dualistic, you going to misunderstand and misinterpret
Yes.
Out.
or automatically reject.
Immediately.
Okay.
So we see language. Dualism promotes a split between belief and action, and disorientation of levels of truth. Now, you're going to have to follow me with this definition of disorientation. Make a note of that word. Disorientation. Disorientation. When this occurs, the spiritual essence can be confused in translation into physical expressions. Think about your relationships now.
Mm-hmm.
About your relationship. What
Yes.
happens
Okay.
when you become dualistic? You what? Have a split between belief and action.
Yes.
And you become disorientated
Yes.
in left truth. And when that occurs, the spiritual essence can be confused in translations into your what? Physical expression. Now you done said something that you're sorry for. And you
Right.
want to ask for apology.
Yes.
You know, I didn't mean that. You what? Said something that da.
Mm-hmm.
You all gonna experience that.
Yep.
Thus, the conceptual Christian soldier of the spirit becomes through a distorted, quote, literal, end of quote, translation, justified battlefield killer. This often concerns me up in here with this so-called spirituality up in the kingdom, because we're so set on the physical, expression
Right.
of French colors of blue, and how your hair is braided, and what you eat and when you eat, and how many lights on in the house, and what you
Right.
listening.
Yes.
That you actually will be ready to what? Spiritually, you understand, actually hurt somebody, even physically remove them and say, that's what Yah wanted you to do.
Right.
Right.
Can't not see.
Okay. Nasik.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be able to articulate this, in a manner where everybody
Yes.
can understand,
Yes.
and if would take their position of rigidity and hold on to and won't change. We know who that is.
Right.
Okay.
So this is taken from Power verses 4, David Hawkins, page 274 in the Blue Book. Whenever there is a discussion about a split between belief and action, we have to look at the meaning of both words. Belief. Now, the word belief says a state of mind in which trust or confidence is placed in some person or thing. Now, that's what belief is. Says a state of mind or a state of consciousness in which you trust or have confidence, that you've placed in some person or something. Now, when he doesn't meet, that person doesn't meet, the qualifications of your belief in him, you get mad and you say, well, so-and-so was mad, but he wasn't like that. He changed, Now, the trust that you put in him that he was going to change or she was going to change, and it didn't happen, now you got a split, in what you believe and to what you're going to do in terms of what? Staying in the relationship.
Right.
Okay.
He says a split between belief and action. Action. Now here we go. A function of the body or one of its parts. So now a belief is just something that you have, you understand, as an abstract idea of confidence in something, but an action is something that what? The actual function of the body or body parts, you understand, apply or does. Eitai, put it on hold for a moment, please. Stop.
Got you.
Okay, so we were talking about the belief and action. We said action is a function of the body or one of its parts, whereas belief is just what? A abstract idea or thought or belief that you place confidence or trust in some person or thing. But it says dualism means two or opposite parts or things such as belief and action. No words or ideas can block inquiry if the view beyond the vision of dualism is authentically sought and cultivated. I want to go back to that point there now, because dualism puts you in opposite, two or more parts, or beliefs or action. But when you let go of dualism and you have a vision there, that is what? Beyond the dualism, if it's authentically sought and cultivated, it cannot be blocked.
That's
It
correct.
cannot be.
Yes.
So we understand, how to utilize this, this knowledge of the ancestors of divinity, unity, wholeness, and oneness,
Yes.
singularity. Quote. This is not a quote. This is we'll hold up on the quote. We must look beyond our current perception of divine marriage if we are to find the problems that exist. First, we must look at what we believe divine marriage should be, and it cannot be two different perceptions, two different meanings. Now, that's in the physical realm. If you talk about divine marriage, and I ain't talking about more than one woman,
Right.
more
Come
than
on.
one man. I ain't talking
Right.
I'm
Right.
talking about the physical realm of a divine union.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have two different perceptions of two different meanings of things.
Yes.
It's not going to work, whether it's one, you understand, or not. 2, 3, it doesn't matter how many.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Nasik.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whenever this happens, the concept of divine marriage loses its opportunity to two oppositions instead of unity.
Yes.
It loses its opportunity to two oppositions instead of unity. We must begin with our present definition of divine marriage. Now, everybody knows that, been in the kingdom, read the kingdom writings, said that which is pleasing and after the manner of Yah God.
Right.
That's what we said divine marriage is. Marriage
Right.
is. The first mistake, you did not marry Yah/God. You married someone in the physical flesh.
That's
That's
Yes.
not you,
Yes.
and not a non-material image.
Come on, Nasik.
It's-
Come
So
on,
that's the
Nasik.
first mistake, that you
Yes.
thought you had God. You said,
Yes.
well, he was in the image of God, or she was in the image of God.
uh,
Then we look at the definition of manner. Manner,
Come on,
12,
Nasik.
the etymology, Middle English, mannery, from Old French, maniere, a way of acting. So this whole thing about divine marriage, it's something that's been set in motion in the simulated false matrix, that there's a manner in how you're supposed to act. And
Mm-hmm.
that manner, you understand, of how you are to act has everything to do with what? The regulations that is caused by extraneous controls.
that's right.
Yes.
Those laws that have been established within the simulated false matrix to tell you how you should act and what you should do and so forth and so on. So if you're not doing that and you're trying to maintain a relationship in the false matrix that's not doing that, you've already done lost from
Right.
the beginning.
Right.
That's right. Nasik.
Hey, that's the point right there, Nasik.
Yeah. Okay, continuing on. Now, the word manner says after the manner of Yah, right? Now that's what it said. That's what pleasing and after the manner of Yah. So we go to the 12th century. The etymology, Middle English, mannery, Old French, mannery, a way of acting from, and it says assume. So now you don't know how to act. It's an
Right.
assumption of how you act.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you know how to act when it's assumption and anything that you're assuming, it's already, according to the biblical writing, that it's a sin to assume.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A characteristic or customary mode of acting. In other words, following suit. Now, that's what everybody expects everybody to do, to follow suit, because the suit is that what has been established, you understand, as the guideline of the assumption that in marriage, you are committed to and you are going to uphold those laws. And that's what you take vows for, right?
Right.
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 Okay. Nasik. Come on.
So we're really taking a good close look at this thing. As we continue our research of divine marriage, truthfully, we don't have a clue.
Right.
We don't have a clue of what it is. That's the truth of the matter.
Yes.
Right.
That's true.
We have not had a clue of what divine marriage is, nor what the two desire it to be.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a clue of what it was to be. We was under the assumption that, oh, well, our emotional feelings, you understand, and our, attractive, you understand, appearance of the flesh was going to what? Keep us together.
That's
Oh,
right.
no. Oh, no. Thus, automatic failure or just stick it out for the sake of some preconceived idea that is not clear at all. That's what ended up happening. Well, it's either it's going to automatically fail or we're going to stick it out, for the sake of some perceived idea, keep us involved, embarrassment, etc., whatever. So we stick it out for those reasons.
Okay.
Whenever the idea loses its pleasure, we get a divorce or release and go our separate ways. And in many cases, we start our search all over again for another pristine candidate. We just give up altogether.
Nasik, you started out talking about vanity. That's what that is.
That's absolutely vanity, ain't it? Oh, well, we're gonna pause here again, and now is there any questions or comments on anything?
I got a comment now. See,
Please.
the last piece you brought, not only does it bring those things, but in some cases, the couples become enemies.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You
Most of the time, only if it's children, and then they get to the point, where you can get them on certain days and certain days.
Right. You know what I'm
You know,
saying?
they don't even want to be around when you come around or when she come around.
Right.
You pick them up over so and so's house. Now that's really vanity, ain't it?
Yes. Yes, it is.
That's
Mm-hmm.
that's a serious. Well, we can see what can happen. It's dualistic, you understand, way of viewing things. It just don't work, family.
Mm-mm.
Not at all.
Any other questions? Point, comments?
And Nasik, you put the mirror up today so that as we end it, we can see why it's not gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna hold it up real high.
Okay.
Real high. We ain't through yet. We got a long way to go yet. On this.
Cain, but the start is great.
Continue on. The search must begin outside of traditional historical biblical perception. Now, if you're searching, you're trying to find, a good Christian woman, a good Hebraic woman, or a good Hebraic man, you got to start your search outside of traditional historical biblical perception.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The traditional biblical narrative has been from a historical perspective instead of an allegorical. This will be the two of you design divine marriage greatest challenge. Okay? Now, what we're saying here is that looking outside of the traditional historical, now you most people in their marriage, they would say they want a spiritual relationship, but they want to look at the historical perspective to determine this spiritual, you understand, relationship. But when you look at historical, now this is where our problem has been. In the historical tradition, perspective is where the problem is. So it's going to be, going to be a great challenge that would have to be overcame. We're going to have to overcome that. Admitting that you really don't know, yet remain open to change from one's selfish perception to that which is beyond failure. Now, you would think that an individual that's really, really saying they love someone, want to be with somebody, whether it be man, woman, children, etc., you would think that they will remain open to the necessary changes from one's own selfish ways. But you see, selfishness is created based upon the dualities, you see?
Right.
Dualistic.
Right.
Yes.
And perception is what causes people to become selfish.
That's right.
Nasik,
Yes, sir.
how can we have divine marriage when the whole concept of divine marriage is based on the metaphor that the energy and the strength and the enlightenment has to come from above and not from you?
Well, this is why we doing this particular session, because we trying to make the perception of divine marriage that we have is null and void, and faulty. We're trying to make that be known. We have not known that. We believe in everything by faith. And if you put your heart into it, and if you really try, you can make it. The song, make it if you really try, and all of that. But we are proving to lives that it can work, because of just what you just said. It cannot work. It can only work in, divinity. And we understand that what that means now. Continuing on, let us look to find the problems and exactly where it lies. And when we are truthful to self, you will discover that it has been those perceptions that one has not let go of.
Yes.
That is the problem. Perception. Now, here we go. Definition 1611. And I thought this was interesting because this is the cycle of time with the conclusion of the King James, translation of the Bible, 1611.
Yes.
This is the first definition you know, and it's always be amusing to me. Guess what? The first definition is obsolete. And you know why it's obsolete?
Right, right.
Because it's consciousness.
That's right.
Right.
Now, how can consciousness be obsolete? Of everything. How can it be obsolete?
Right.
But you see, this is 1611. You know, so this is they define, you know, perception as what? Consciousness as being obsolete, you know, it outlived its usefulness. How can consciousness outlive its usefulness?
Wow. Wow.
Consciousness, okay. So let's look at the verb precede. Okay, so let us look at the verb precede, 14th century. So now you got 200 years, and they dealt with the verb as opposed to the noun of the word perception. And I always, what was going on during those cycles of time, except, you know, a process of, you know, how things were to what? Be laid out so that would run its course, and we would not be able to break out of it. You follow what I'm saying by that?
I'm right there with you.
Okay.
Now see, they were designing their plan, you know, before they put it into implementation.
Right. Things would continue to unfold, you know, within the cycle of time. I'm clear. 14th century, precede, the verb. Middle English, perceiving, from Middle English, persevere, from Latin, persevere, from thoroughly, to be thorough. Now, so here, now we go to verb, the definition number one, it says to attain awareness or understanding of. So it was what? Essential that we would attain an awareness, you know, or understanding of something. And if not, then without that understanding, you would not be able to what? You know, change the condition, because now, once you understand awareness of things, we have to ask the question, well, where do understanding and awareness come? How did it come to the physical?
Right.
We go on to definition number two, it says, to become aware through the senses. And it says, especially to see and to observe. So now, the sense organ. Again, you know, you can see how everything is interrelated, you know, and entangled. The sense organ is not outside of the whole physical body. And so if you're going to what? Have some kind of spiritual perception of something, and you what? In a dualistic way of viewing things, you seeing things outside of yourself, what do you actually expect to, you understand, reveal to you what and how? That's the question. What's going to come to you? How will it come if it didn't come through the sense organs?
Right.
You know? So, moving on, it says, whenever we seek to find a solution, we must verify its derivative and where it comes from. And this leads me to the word disillusion. Now, really, really consider here the word disillusion. If you hear the word solution in the word disillusion.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
So now we have to consider here. It says, to seek to find a solution, we must verify its derivative as to where the word derived from. Disillusion. Now, 14th century. The act or the process of dissolving. Dissolution is an act or a process of dissolving something. Then it says A, separation into component parts. So here now, we're talking about a solution. So we're talking about, so there has to be some component parts that has to be dissolved in order for, you understand, the wholeness to come. We gotta really listen to this here, because here it says B is a decay or disintegration. Then it says 2, death or dissolute. So now there's something that has to die in order for what? Something to be born, right?
That's right.
Then we go to the word dissolute. We're all talking about a solution now. The etymology Latin, dissolutus, from dissolvus, to loosen or dissolve. Okay, now all of this is the etymology of the word dissolute. Then it says lacking restraint, especially marked by indulgence in things as drink or promiscuous sex. Now, that's the example that it gives. Vices. So now, when we say something like drinking or promiscuous sex, would have to be what? Dissolved, you know, if you have a problem indulging in such things. Now follow me, because we talk about a solution that is really not a solution to the equation, because we're talking about it from within the false simulated matrix, okay?
Yes.
That's where the definition comes from. Continue. This means that the solution to the problem are dissolvable because they are perceptions. So you can dissolve your perceptions, but in the false matrix, you're going to have a problem dissolving your perception, because your perception is predicated upon your beliefs, and your beliefs and your actions are what? Split.
Yes.
They are split. And remember now, the definition, you know, of consciousness. Perception, the definition was what? Consciousness, but that become obsolete. So what would you use to determine, you understand, the dissolving of your problem when you do not have what? Consciousness. How you gonna dissolve it? You can't do it.
Can't
because
do it.
It's made obsolete within the simulated false mind matrix. Now you see why we don't solve no problems?
Yes. Okay, Nasik. Crystal clear.
Obsolete, the adjective, Latin, etymology, to grow old. Become disused. Okay, this was 1579, definition 1. No longer in use, or no longer useful. Now, how is consciousness?
Come on, Nasik.
I'm having a problem understanding.
Oh man.
It says, you know, be of a kind or style no longer current, old fashioned. Now, you know, the children always tell you, you know, and we could never hear them, huh? They say, oh, old fashioned. You know?
Right.
Of a plant or animal part, indistinct or imperfect, as compared with a corresponding part in related organism. Now, this is an interesting point here. It says that, you know, that when something becomes no longer current or old-fashioned, it's like a plant or an animal part, indistinct or imperfect, as compared with a corresponding part in related organisms. And you got to kind of look at your relationship there when you say, well, now, within this relationship, there are some corresponding parts that doesn't relate within this organism or within this what union of relationship. And these are referred to as vesicles. And the word vestige, from the word vestigism, footsteps or footprints or track.
Wow.
It says track. A track, mark, or visible sign left by something, as an ancient city or a condition or practice, vanished or lost. Now, here we talking about, you know, perceptions and consciousness is like what? Footsteps or footprints or tracks or marks or visible sign left by something, as an ancient city or ancient people or ancient concepts that are conditions or practice that has vanished or lost, you know. Now you can see why it's almost impossible, you know, to find our way back. So we're gonna hold right here. And before we get into the next portion, we're gonna close with that point there, and we pick up tomorrow back where we left off. So I'm gonna close this point out, Eitai and family, and ask if there's any questions or comments on anything.